Greed, activity, the undertaking of actions, unrest, and craving, these spring up, O best of the Bharatas, Arjuna, when rajas increases, when passion increases. When the mode of rajas passion increases, when greed, activity, the undertaking of actions, unrest, and craving spring up. The first thing that happens when the mode of rajas passion increases is that greed springs up. The second is that activities increases and material activities increase. The third is that actions increase. The fourth is that unrest increases. And the fifth is that the craving for material objects increases. And one thinks that I want this, I want that, and I want that thing. These five things increase. The mode of sattva goodness has two qualities: light shining forth in all the senses and gnan, wisdom. There are five characteristics of the mode of rajas, passion: greed, activity, the undertaking of actions, unrest, and craving. What can you call greed? Shankaracharya says that greed is paradhayistasta, the greed to grasp others' possessions. If something is owned by somebody else and one thinks how that thing can be owned by him, then this is greed. In the Mahabharata, Dhritarashtra did this very thing. The meaning of the word is Dhritarashtra is one who has clung on to the kingdom of a country that does not belong to him. Dhritam Rashram Yena Saha Dhritarashtra. In reality, the right to the kingdom of Yudhishthir when he became of age. He should have coronated Yudhishthir as king, but he did not. He kept constantly thinking about how Yudhishthir's kingdom can become mine and my son Duryodhana's. This is greed. Now we want objects, and it's not as if we don't want objects, but just like I described the different types of sleep earlier, such as necessary sleep and unnecessary sleep, in the same way, objects can be split into two types: necessary objects and unnecessary objects. Gathering necessary objects cannot be called greed. We get hungry 2 times a day, and therefore if we eat 5 pieces of bread 2 times a day, then there is no problem with this. This cannot be called greed. But if a person goes beyond this, then this is called greed. It is clearly written that if one attains enough possessions that one needs and yet endlessly has a wish to keep increasing one's possessions, then this is called greed. Whatever one gets, they feel as if it is not enough. This is just like Vivekananda's line. A teacher drew a line and told the pupils to make it shorter without rubbing it out. So there was a line on the blackboard. The teacher told the pupils to make the line shorter without rubbing it out. The pupils began to wonder about how they would be able to do it. Vivekananda got up and drew a bigger line above that line, and the other line automatically became smaller. We are always trying to do this very activity in life, that the teacher who is God has drawn one line, which is the line of attainment. This represents everything that we've got, but the line of our expectations above this line is so big that whatever we attain is not enough. This line keeps getting bigger. This is called greed. Kamsa from the Srimad Bhagavad had 2 wives who were called Asti and Prapti. They were the daughters of Jarasandha and were both sisters. Therefore both sisters went together. We must understand the meaning of both. Asti means I have this, and Prapti means I will get this. They were Asti and Prapti, meaning I have this and I'll get this, then this will happen and I'll have this. Now I will get this and this will happen. One who constantly has such thoughts in their mind either becomes a Jarasandha or a Kamsa. But one thing is certain, that they will definitely become a demon. This is Asti and Prapti, this is greed. Shankaracharya says, while defining greed, that the attitude of going after another person's possessions is greed, and Ramanujaraji says that Lobha Svakarya Dravasya Atyag Stila, the attitude of not leaving one's possessions, can also be called greed. Therefore, going after another person's possession is of course greed, and there is no doubt about this, but the definition of Ramanujaraji is more popular in society today. A greedy person has everything, yet he cannot leave them. Those who oppose using money for good causes are greedy. Someone is trying to raise funds for fundraising and people say that they won't give them money. We call these people greedy because this money will not leave these people. Ramanujaraji gives this definition. Lobha Svarikriya Dharvasya Atyag Stila. This is greed. And this attitude is more or less in everyone. One time our Kachalal was going to perform Satkarma, divine acts. Some good work was going on and there was a discourse taking place. He became very influenced by this, and then the Aarti took place where Kachalal thought that today I wish to give £100 in this Aarti. He decided this while listening to it. The Aarti finishes and the people start chanting Kapura Gauram. Kachara then thinks that £100 will be too much and decides to give £50. When the arty plate comes to the people in front of him, then he gets out his wallet and he thinks that's a very big note, whereas the £10 note is a new note. When the arty plate comes next to him, then even he puts the £10 note inside and decides it would be better to put the £5 note in the arty plate as everyone else is putting £5 in. Look what a jump it is from £100 to £5. This is called greed. We just stopped at a station in between. When the RT plate comes closer, then he decides that a note might get burnt and therefore it would be better to give a £1 coin. He thinks that the wind might blow the note away, whereas the coin will reach the destination. He gets out his wallet with a £1 coin in his hand and puts it inside his fist, thinking that, what does God need? As the RT plate comes round, then his hand begins to shake as if the £1 coin is telling him not to let it go. The RT plate is in front of him and he says God's name while waving his hand on the flame and puts the coin back in his left hand and keeps it. This is the very name of greed. It does not leave the person's hands. Shankarananji says that greed is the attitude of suffering when one has to give up material objects of wealth. When a person gives something up, then there should be no suffering in this. There should be no suffering at all. One should suffer no pain when they give something up. I always say that to donate is not just to give, but to give gracefully. What happens in suffering is that one does not give something, one does give something, but they do not give it gracefully, and there is no grace in it. There should be no suffering in giving something away. Giving without suffering is understanding the other person's heart and then giving the donation. This is what giving without suffering is. We use the phrase dharma sahisnuta, which means I have my own thoughts and you have your own thoughts. I respect your thoughts. This is called not suffering. This is when one has attitude that I adore your feelings, and when I give this to you, then I do not give coldly. I give while maintaining your pride. This is called giving without suffering. When this is not there, then this is greed. I've seen such people put an advertisement in a newspaper that they give scholarships to students. Many people need this in order to pay for school or college fees, and they're therefore called to the office. They're kept there for 1.5 hours or for 2 hours, and are told that the boss has some busy work. You told them to come at 2 p.m. and they've come at 2 p.m. It turns 3:30 p.m., then 4 p.m., and the child is asked 15 different questions. I'll tell you about an experience of mine having been experience of Guruji's who's been in the field of advertising. The people who have given big donations and the people who give millions of pounds never ask you anything, but the people who gives you £11 ask 15 questions such as, why do you want this? How do you want this? How will you do that? A friend of mine has experienced this. All these people perform social, religious or charitable activities all have this experience. Those people who naturally give big donations just know that something is a good activity, and if they feel like it, then they go and see it's a good activity taking place somewhere, and they go and see it without people knowing, and then they immediately call you and give you the money and it's done. But those people who want to give a receipt for £11 ask 15 questions about, what will I get? How much income tax will there be? Do you want income tax for £11? This is called giving while suffering. Lubdhya anena iti lobaha. And if I were to say in a very simple and straightforward words, then where is greed born from? It is born from a lack of feeling of contentment and a lack of feeling of satisfaction. A lack of feeling of contentment is greed. A lack of feeling of satisfaction is greed. Godana gajjana vajitan or ratan khan jabave santoshtan sabdan doli saman. The wealth of cattle, horses and elephants and all mines of gems and diamonds are like worthless dust and pebbles before the wealth of contentment. Until the wealth of satisfaction does not come, then a person is going to remain greedy. This is because whatever he'll get will be too little. Greed comes as a result of the mode of rajas, passion. When the mode of rajas passion increases, then greed certainly comes. Secondly, when the mode of rajas passion increases, then as a result of greed, activity increases. One has a feeling of constantly performing actions. Ramanjacharya defines this as pravritti bhojanam anudishya api chalana swabhavata, the disposition to be active, devoid of any purpose. If I were to say it in the languages of the villages of India, then this is the attitude of Paini pedash ni ne kadi ni navrashni. There is no income of even a small amount, and yet there is no leisure for even an hour. This is what you call activity, and this is a symbol of the mode of rajas, passion. One does not even know their purpose. One asks this person what they're doing, why they're doing something, and they're saying that they're doing it because they enjoy it, or but because someone else is doing it. Their purpose is not even clear. If you do even the smallest activities in life, then your purpose must be clear. That why am I doing this? One does not even know this. Just like a leaf floats around with a gust of wind in the air, going from one place to another, and then from another place to another, then there is activity, but there is no purpose. This is the same state of that of an oilman, such as the state of a person born of the mode of rajas passion. You can see him performing a lot of activity, but the purpose has not even been determined. Madhusudan Saraswati Ji says this very same thing, that activity is one of endlessly making efforts. This is the attitude of activity, activity, activity. This is why it is said that purpose is needed. But such people just get fun out of remaining busy. They think that I'm doing this and I'm doing that. How great is this? This is the mode of rajas passion. The third thing that is said here is the undertaking of actions. This is when one only wishes to do work when they get something out of it. Phala sadhana buddhanam karmanam arambe udayoga. This is the characteristic of the mode of rajas passion. The majority of these people in the world are like this. When you told them to do something and that they have to do this, then they always ask, yes, what will I get out of this? This is a person of the mode of rajas passion. This is because performing actions without attachment to the fruits is a quality of the mode of sattva goodness. In the mode of rajas passion, one always wishes to get something out of performing works. Madhusudan Saraswati Ji says that this is the attitude of having a feeling of desire and performing material actions all the time. Kama nishida tatha lokik kriya udyog. Because we live in the material world, it is fine that we perform material actions in order to fulfill some responsibilities. But a person does not rise above this. He thinks that he has to go to somebody else's wedding in the morning, somebody else's house at lunchtime, and then for a dinner party at someone else's in the evening. This is a material activity after material activity after material activity. He just remains stuck in this. Then he gets so occupied in his activities and stuff that he begins talking that he has to go to these things such as weddings. It is his wedding that he's worrying about. It's not his wedding, but yet he's still worrying about it. He runs around so much that he just does one material activity after another. He's just occupied in material activities, and this is a characteristic of the mode of rajas passion. There's a difference between activity and the undertaking of actions. I mention this because the words look very similar, activity and the undertaking of actions. One is activity and the other is beginning to perform actions. What is the difference between the two? There is a very thin difference. Activity is when the circumstances arise and we have to perform some actions. Such a situation arises that we have to react and you cannot just sit idle. This is called activity. And to try to create the circumstances is called the undertaking of actions. This is the difference between the two. Constantly beginning the performance of new actions only for the purpose of material enjoyments or for the purpose of collecting things is called the undertaking of actions. Shri Krishna says here that this is a characteristic of the mode of rajas passion. And Shri Krishna has said this over and over again, even early in the Gita, while describing the qualities of a devotee, that we have been given this human body not only for performing actions, and not only for beginning actions with the attitude that I will perform actions because I have a selfish interest, I'll get something out of this and my material enjoyments will be fulfilled. No, and that is why, while describing the qualities of a devotee, Shri Krishna said in the 16th verse of the 12th chapter of the Gita that Sarvamanam pa parityagi yomat bhakta sa me priya. He who has given up all initiative in action, he, my devotee, is dear to me. He does not begin any actions by himself, but if the responsibilities come, then he fulfills them very beautifully, and if the circumstances arise, then he fulfills them very greatly. But he never has the attitude that he will perform works only because I want something, or that a vasana, a mental impression, desire or wish for material enjoyments will be satisfied. This is what the undertaking of actions means here. The fourth thing that springs up when the mode of rajas passion increases is unrest. A characteristic of the mode of rajas passion is turbulence. Unrest is interpreted as the restlessness of the senses. Ashama indriyana paritahi. This is when the senses are constantly restless. The person does not sit there peacefully. If you wish to recognize a person of the mode of rajas passion, then I'll give you a very simple characteristics. If a person is talking with you and there are only the two of you, then while speaking, if that person looks around, then consider that this person is in the mode of rajas passion. Fine, if the room is very nice and there's nice decorations, then one can look at it once and it's done, but this person keeps looking around everywhere, even though there are only two of you. For a person of the mode of rajas passion, every moment is jerky. You do not see a rhythm or grace in this person that you should see. Even when he's speaking, he keeps changing the subject. He is talking about one thing, then he brings up something completely different that we think that where did he link this from? Only you will know where we linked it from. This is because he's so fickle that we feel that what he was talking about and what questions he was asking, but we have no connections whatsoever. But he brings it there. And not just once, but this is happening over and over again. This is because this becomes his nature. This is a person of the mode of rajas passion. He has unrest. What this shows is that he has inner turbulence. He has so much turbulence from inside. When many people have sat down to talk, then their feet are constantly going up and down. When this person is sitting next to me and I'm in a good mood, then I keep looking at his legs. Then it immediately becomes at peace. When he starts speaking again, then his legs start shaking again. And I once again look at his legs. I often say, why is there so much disorder, brother? You're sitting there, so keep your leg at rest. This is unrest. Where can all of this turbulence inside go? It has to come out somewhere. It is said about us that a Hindu's hands never stay in one place. This is the mode of rajas, passion. One constantly needs one thing to do or the other. This is unrest and inner turbulence. Why does this turbulence arise? It is because there is an increase in intentions and desires. As a result of this, instabilities arise in the thoughts, and the consequence of this is that turbulence comes. The more wishes that one has, and the more intentions one has, and the more desires one has, then the more that turbulences arise inside. These are the consequences that come. Madhusudan Saraswati Ji says that unrest is the attitude that I have done this one piece of work and now I will do a second piece of work and a third piece of work. Then I will do this and then I'll do that. One in whose mind this flow of thoughts and this flow of intentions keeps running endlessly is at unrest. This person can never sit down cross-legged. Unrest remains with the person. There is hustle and bustle in his antakaran, inner being, and they can only be another reason. If one does not attain what they wish for, then the state of unrest can come. One did not get what they wanted. This is unrest. We have to feel this a lot. If there is one thing that is the biggest need of today's times, then it is this, inner peace. And that is why meditation is necessary for it, and that is why the chanting the name of God is necessary for it, provided that person is performing it in the right way. I'll show you some small experiments. Take 10 minutes a day where you sit in a position which you're comfortable. You could be seated cross-legged on the floor as long as you're sitting somewhere. At that moment, decide that you're not going to do anything. Spend 10 minutes where you're awake, yet your eyes are closed. When you open your eyes thereafter, then you'll get so much peace. Buddha has shown us the experiment of vipassana, where one is seated awake with the eyes closed. It is an experiment worth doing. You're only investigating your breath. Experience the breath being inhaled and experience the air being exhaled. Keep witnessing this for 10 minutes. You'll not be able to sit there at the beginning for 10 minutes with your eyes closed. Something or the other will happen where you think that I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to go there. When 30 seconds are gone, then you start scratching your nose. Until now it was not itching, but now it's itching. And if I were to go further, I would say that when your nose begins to itch, then just keep watching it. You do not want to scratch it, so let it go. What will happen? Let us at least see. You automatically feel that it will stop. And there is a whole graph of this. I'm saying this having done these experiments, and when you have done these experiments, then you experience this. Whenever you get itch on your nose, then you immediately start scratching, but do not do this. For the first 10, 15 or 20 seconds, the itch will keep increasing so much that the graph will keep flickering up and down. You'll feel as if you cannot go without it, cannot go without it, and cannot go without it, and you're itching so much. But decide in your mind that you're not going to scratch it. It will reach one peak, and slowly, the sensations will automatically reduce. You'll feel as if it has gone away, and even if you do not scratch it, then it will go away. In reality, you should perform this experiment, and you realize that we become slaves to so many unnecessary movements of ours. They happen, and it's not necessary to scratch it there. When you do all of this, then slowly, you'll realize that an inner peace will manifest inside. Then each and every one of your senses will listen to you. There is an event in Buddha's life when he was walking and talking with his brother Anand. Suddenly a fly came and sat on the Buddha's right shoulder. Buddha was talking to Anand about something. While speaking, Buddha slapped his shoulder with his left hand to make the fly go away, and the fly flew away. Anand saw that he had made the fly go away. They walked 10 steps, and Buddha slapped his right shoulder again with the left hand. At that time there was no fly. Anand saw that the first time he slapped his shoulder there was a fly there, and he did the right thing in slapping it. But now there was no fly, yet Buddha still slapped the shoulder. He was such a smart disciple. I often say that if there are smart disciples like this, then even gurus become alert. Such a sharp people. Anand therefore asked the Tathagata, which is another name for Buddha, why he did this, because it was clear why he did it the first time, 10 steps ago, as there was a fly there, but it was not so much clear why he did it the second time, and as there was no fly this time round. Buddha replied that the first time, when the fly was there, and he slapped his shoulder, then he had not given this order to his hand. His hand went without his order. He had not told his hand to go to make the fly go away. His hand went there without asking him. Anand said that he did not understand because the fly was there, and so it was natural that the hand would go there as well. Buddha said, yes, it was because the fly was there that the hand went there, but the hand did not go there because I told it to go there, and it went there unconsciously. It is my hand, and therefore it should go upon my instructions. The fly did go away in the end, but I realized that my hand went there without my instructions. That is why the second time I gave specific training to the hand, to only go when I give it instructions, and not to go there without my order. That is why the hand went there even though the fly was not there. It was to assert my authority. My hand should go according to my order. Anand asked what was the difference between the two. Buddha said there's a very big difference. The hand that can today slap a fly away without my order can also strangle someone's throat without my order. If my hand does not ask me for my instructions when it goes to slap a fly away, then it may not ask for my instructions while grabbing a knife to kill someone or to grab someone's throat. My mind, body and senses should always act upon my instructions. And therefore, in every matter I will assert my authority on each and every organ of my body and in each and every one of my senses. And this authority is not egotism. This authority is awakeness. It is constant awareness. And while there is no inner peace, then this awakeness cannot come. This is because a person who is turbulent from the inside has to put out so many fires. A man is puts out one fire, then runs towards another fire, and after putting out that fire, runs towards another fire. A person in the mode of Rajas passion has created so many fires around him that he runs here and there, from the first place to the second place, has to do this, and that everything is most urgent and most urgent. He doesn't rise above his urgencies. For him, life is the most useless thing, and everything else is urgent. Turbulence is therefore created. The fifth thing that springs up when the mode of Rajas passion increases is craving. Shankaracharya says that craving is sarva samanya vastu vishaya trushna, meaning the desire for all kinds of unordinary objects. This is craving. Shankarananji and Ramanacharya says that only one thing, that the desire for sense objects is craving. Vishaya icha spruha. And Madhusudan Saraswati ji says that craving is the desire to take things belonging to others in a prohibited manner. When the mode of Rajas passion increases, then this craving comes. It is written in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavad about what happens when the mode of Rajas passion comes. Vikruvan kriya chatir nivruvita chetasam gatra swastyam manobantam raja ete nishmaya. While performing any work, if the intellect is running around everywhere, the mind is wavering, the senses of knowledge are turbulent, and the senses of action are full of thought, then consider that the mode of Rajas passion has increased. If the intellect is running around everywhere while one is performing any work, then consider that the mode of Rajas passion has increased. The wavering of the mind is a characteristic of the increase of the mode of Rajas passion. When the senses of knowledge are turbulent and the senses of action are full of thought, then consider that the mode of Rajas passion has increased. What happens when the mode of Tamas increases? The Lord shows us in the next verse.